Explosive congressional hearings took place earlier in the day. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was confronted to her face in what can only be described as some brilliant cross-examination by Democrats. She folded and then said she had to leave to go to a FEMA review board hearing, which never actually took place. We'll break down what went down there. There were other big hearings also where Democrats confronted people at the FBI over who's Antifa? Where's their headquarters? And this FBI guy just like folded on live TV, didn't know what to say. We'll discuss what happened there. Donald Trump this week held a disastrous event in a small wedding banquet hall at the Mount Airy Casino in Pennsylvania. Yep, Donald Trump has been reduced to a wedding singer cognitively declining before this country, and he rolled out all his classic hits. He called countries in Africa shithole countries, which he denied during his first term, and said, why don't we have people from countries like Denmark and Sweden? Why are they coming from the shithole countries? Remember when that was announced during the first term and all the Trumpers denied it? Donald Trump also said that farmers are getting rich because of the bailout that he just gave them, because they're being bankrupted by his tariffs against the world. And of course, Donald Trump gave his classic that everything is affordable right now and people are in a golden age. We'll talk about what's actually happening with the economy. The chairman of the Federal Reserve, who, by the way, Trump appointed during his first term, Jerome Powell, he gave a speech where he outlined the truth about the housing market, about inflation, and about the job market, and none of it is good. We're in a stagflation period right now that we hadn't really seen since the 1970s. We should also talk about the Indiana State Senate rejecting Donald Trump's attempt to gerrymander in Indiana. It wasn't even close, a 31-19 vote rejecting the gerrymander bill that Trump pushed forward. And this was after Donald Trump, the Heritage Foundation's Political Action Arm, and others threatened that we will not fund anything in Indiana. We'll strip you of all federal funding from roads to disaster relief if you don't go along with Trump's gerrymander plan. And the Indiana State Senate said, no way, we're not doing it. Donald Trump tried yet again to indict New York Attorney General Letitia James, just as he tried last week after it was dismissed the week before that. And that was rejected by a grand jury yet again. This time he went to Alexandria, where he previously went to Norfolk in Virginia, rejected in both grand juries week after week. They say that you can indict a ham sandwich. Well, not if you're the Trump DOJ. We should talk about Democratic lawmakers and Epstein survivors coming together to demand an audit of the Epstein files about what, if anything, has been deleted, destroyed, removed by the Trump regime in advance of the deadline, which is coming up in just a few days. That's 7 days, 6 days, to release the Epstein files based on the Epstein Transparency Act that was signed into law. The survivors have no faith at all that Donald Trump's actually going to release the actual files. Talk about that and more. This is the MeidasTouch Podcast. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Brett and Jordy. How are you?
Doing well. It's great to be here, brothers. Great to be here, Midas Mighty. Thank you to everybody for watching this live on YouTube. Thank you to everybody for listening on all the various podcast platforms. Really appreciate it. What a great day for democracy and a great day for justice. Dare I even say that out loud? I don't want to jinx anything, but I think today is one of those days where you could have a lot of optimism about where things are going. And as we've looked also to the past few days and seen Donald Trump's decline and the way he is struggling to sell his agenda to the American people, as so many Americans and so many people from his own party are clearly turning against him. I think what we're seeing right now is the Trump administration used to be an insurgent force. They used to be the ones who were able to bully all of these Republicans across the country and get their way. They were kind of similar to the Tea Party in that respect, which came up during the Obama administration. But now I think we're seeing that this Trump administration has become the establishment, and they are the establishment that people absolutely despise, and the American people and even many Republicans now are not buying what they are selling. I'm excited to get into all of that on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. As I said, it's great to be here. Jordy, What's the latest?
What's up, brothers? What's up, Midas Mighty? I'm stoked to get into today's show. One quick push here. We're gonna hit 5.7 million subscribers really soon on the YouTube channel. So please hit subscribe. It's totally free to subscribe. And we're making a really strong case here to hit 5.8, potentially 6 million if folks dig their heels in by 2026. So hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Let's get into today's show. Benji, where are we starting?
Let's take you into one of the hearings that took place in the House of Representatives where Kristi Noem was a witness, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. She was supposed to be there for the full hearing, but after a few of the Democratic Congress members questioned her, she just walked out and left, and she claimed she had another engagement to be at, which we now learned was also false. She said that she was going to a FEMA Review Council meeting, but who would even run that thing at this point? They pretty much got rid of everybody at FEMA. But let me show you what happened before she decided that she would leave. And she was getting very nervous, and that's one of the main reasons that she left. You had a Democratic Congress member from Rhode Island, a friend of mine, Seth Magaziner, did an incredible job with this cross-exam, probably the cross-exam of the year, coming in perfect time for Christmas and the holiday season. Watch as Magaziner confronted Kristi Noem about the Border Patrol and ICE going after U.S. military veterans and deporting people who have taken bullets for the United States. Let's play this.
Madam Secretary, how many United States military veterans have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
I don't believe you served in the military. I haven't either, but I think you and I can agree that as Americans, we owe everything to those who have served our country in uniform, particularly those who have served in combat. Do you agree with that?
Sir, I believe that people that are in this United States that are citizens have legal status here.
Madam Secretary, we are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Sejun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran who was shot twice while serving our country in Panama in 1989. Like many veterans, he struggled with PTSD and substance abuse after his service. He was arrested in the 1990s for some minor drug offenses, nothing serious. He never hurt anyone besides himself, and he's been clean and sober for 14 years. He is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. He has sacrificed more for this country than most people ever have. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7 years old. Will you join me in thanking Mr. Park for his service to our country?
Sir, I'm grateful for every single person that has served our country and follows our laws.
Can you please tell Mr. Park why you deported him?
Every one of them needs to be enforced.
But you understand that many veterans struggle with PTSD, many veterans struggle with substance abuse challenges. This man took 2 bullets for our country. You have broad authority, by the way, as Secretary, to issue humanitarian parole, to do deferred action. Will you commit to at least looking at Mr. Park's case to see if you can help him find a pathway back to this country that he sacrificed so much for?
I will absolutely look at his case, but I want you to remember that
Madam Secretary, the man behind you, please stand up, sir. His name is Jim Brown from Troy, Missouri. He is a Navy combat veteran who served our country in the Gulf War. He's married to a woman named Donna, who came to our country legally from Ireland when she was 11 years old. She has lived here for 48 years. Because of you, Jim's wife, Donna, has been in prison for the last 4 months. She did not come here illegally, and she has never committed any crime other than writing 2 bad checks totaling $80 10 years ago. She is currently in prison and facing deportation. Ms. Noem, will you thank Mr. Brown for his service to our country?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your service to our country.
Now, what possible explanation can there be for locking up his wife for 4 months when she has committed no crime other than writing a couple of bad checks for $80?
Sir, it is not my prerogative, my latitude, or my job to pick and choose which laws in this country get enforced.
You have broad discretion as the Secretary. You can issue parole, you can do all kinds of things, but you're choosing not to. Will you commit, again, to just reviewing Donna's case and reuniting this combat veteran with his beloved wife, who also loves this country?
I will review the case.
So then after that line of questioning, Kristi Noem's decision was...
That was so good, I gotta say. Representative Magaziner, that was the best line. Because we always have people say when we show these clips, why don't they have like the materials there to say, okay, well, you're lying. bringing out the iPad with the individual on the iPad, the veteran who was deported, was freaking masterful. And then following it up with, okay, now look behind you. Here's another veteran who's been affected by this. And getting Kristi Noem on camera to say, thank you for your service. Can you thank this man for his service? Can you thank him for his service? I thought that was so brilliant. It reminded me of, like, you know, those talk shows when, like, you know, there was like Adam Scott on, the actor who was on, like, I forget what talk show. Maybe it was like Kimmel or Fallon or something. And he's talking about how much he loves Mark Hamill. And then they go, well, you're never going to believe this. Turn around. And Mark Hamill comes out. It was like an inverse of the surprise guest. Okay, well, we got the iPad proof. Boom, mic drop. That was like just the most brilliant work by the congressman right there.
And she couldn't filibuster out of it, just the way the questions were crafted, right? And when she tried to, boom, he just moved on right away. Then you had Congresswoman McIver from New Jersey, who's under a felony indictment from this Trump regime when she showed up at one of the detention centers in her congressional district, or right by her congressional district, based on these kind of fabricated charges by the DOJ. So she was questioning Kristi Noem, and you'll see Kristi Noem just continues to talk over her. Here, watch this.
To all of
Thank
our
you,
different
Secretary
agencies.
Noem. Do you agree that using
200,000
DHS
people that have
resources
signed
to
up to be
target
ICE
members of
officers?
Congress is an abuse of power?
Excuse me, would you say that
You
again?
would have heard me if you stopped talking
If you
and
would
listened to
stop
my
talking
questions.
crazy,
Do
you're
you
making
agree
stuff up.
that using DHS resources to target members of Congress is an abuse of power?
We are not doing that. We are out there enforcing the law, doing our work, and we are allowing oversight.
Of course, we're not
visits
going to get any
more than the
answers. With
entire
that,
Joe
Mr.
Biden
Chairman, I
administration
yield
did.
back.
Gentlelady yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. McKean, for 5 minutes of questions.
I'll show you the questioning by Democratic Congressmember Dan Goldman from New York, and his congressional district is right by the federal immigration court, where immigrants have been showing up for their asylum hearings. And as they show up for their asylum hearings, meaning they're here lawfully, they're going through an asylum process, they're snatched in the courthouse by ICE agents, and then they're thrown into these detention centers, and then they're disappeared. Let's just play this clip of his questioning of Noem.
To the 5 minutes, I'm sorry, but gentleman from New York is now recognized, Mr. Goldman, for 5 minutes.
Secretary Noem, let's talk about the law. Do you agree that asylum is a lawful pathway to immigrate to this country? Yes or no?
There's an asylum program, yes, in place.
All right. So
It was
immigrants
approved under
then
the
with
Biden
ongoing asylum applications are legally in this country, correct?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Your question was?
Immigrants with ongoing asylum applications are legally in this country.
There are individuals in this country that have applications that
And they are legally here because it's a lawful pathway, right?
it's a lawful pathway.
Okay, so
And I
if
will-
your department then deports anyone with an ongoing asylum application, you are violating the law, correct?
Joe Biden left us with.
I'm not asking about Joe Biden. I'm asking you a
1.5
specific
million
question.
cases
If
of
your
backlogged
department
asylum
deports anyone
That's
with an
the program.
ongoing asylum application,
The
you
program
are
was
violating the
greatly
law. Is that
violated.
correct?
It was greatly violated when they allowed.
I'm
1.5
asking
million
you.
people to come
I'm
in and
asking you.
granted asylum applications.
Why are you filibustering?
by
Why can't you
ignoring
answer the
laws.
question? It's a
Because,
simple
Joe,
question.
Your president.
If your department
and your secretary
deports
did not
anyone
follow the law,
with an
which those
ongoing
applications
asylum
were
application, you are violating the law. Isn't that correct?
The asylum program was
Okay.
broken under the last.
Mr. Chairman, I will reclaim my time. She's not answering the question. But the obvious answer is that, yes, if you follow a lawful pathway, asylum is a lawful pathway. If you have an open asylum case, you are here lawfully. But the problem that we are seeing around the country is that you are not following the law. Don't tell us to change the law. If you don't like the asylum system, you change the asylum law. Bring it to us. We'll work with you. I think it needs to be changed. But you can't just decide that you're not going to follow the law, and asylum is a law, and deport people who have ongoing applications. Unfortunately, that is exactly what's happening. It's happening across the street from my office right in New York City.
And then Kristi Noem says, I gotta go. I'm leaving. I gotta go. And then she blames that she's got some other hearing. I'm so busy. I've got this FEMA hearing, which is not actually happening. That's where I got to leave. Well, also, let's just assume the FEMA hearing was happening. Why wouldn't you just schedule? You're the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. Why wouldn't you schedule it for after? Like, she created this conflict to get out if she was doing horrible, and then she was doing horrible, and then she left scared, panicked. Here, play this clip when she leaves. Let's play.
Dollars immediately, and we're responding immediately to our people.
I
have to actually leave this hearing early because the FEMA Review Council is giving their report today on suggestions for changes to FEMA.
Thank you for not taking your foot off the gas.
I have to
on that.
co-chair it, but I will be leaving soon to have to go do that. But those.
And then if you were wondering, the MAGA guy who's chairing it, thank you for not taking your foot. Thank you for not taking your foot off the gas on that. Just be very clear. You are Congress. You are your own article in the Constitution. And do you know which article you are in the Constitution about how the framers viewed your role? You're number one. You're Article 1, the executive branch that Noem is a part of. That's number 2. So as Article 1, the founders believed that you in Article 1 would protect your turf, not say to Article 2, while they're admitting to violations of the law at your committee, that we all see that Article 1 would go, you know what? Yeah, just make up something and get out of here. Skedaddle. And that's exactly what we saw there. And that's one of the issues, there's many, with MAGA Mike Johnson, when he has forfeited what Article 1 is, the check and the balance, such that Steve Bannon says that thankfully the Congress is now like the Russian Duma, like it's like the Russian Congress. Here, play this. Brett, Jordy, what do you say?
We're not playing a clip, right? You're coming to us.
Just play a clip. Just play a random clip right now.
No, I mean, listen.
But all I do is say play the clip all day. That rather than ask you questions, I just
So with Kristi Noem, when like you pull, like if Kristi Noem was a doll, yeah, if Kristi Noem was like a wind-up doll, all these people in the Trump administration, it's like, but the Biden administration with Bennett's. Play the clip. But you know what? Like, as an introvert, I respect the move a little bit. Like, you make the other time commitment, at the same time, because you got to get coffee with this person, but you only want to keep it to a half hour. You can't go too long. Oh, I could do the half hour, but I have this other thing at 3:00. So I'm just messing around. They have nothing to fall back on here. They just constantly go Biden for everything. And you can make the argument that Biden should have done a lot more for the border, especially early on in his presidency. You could certainly say that. There were a lot of external factors at the time that I think a lot of people look over, which is the fact that migration was a freaking mess after COVID, and there were all these external factors happening. And we just came after the Trump administration, which was so horrific in handling every single situation. And then the Biden administration did try to take many steps to try to fix this issue in a legal way. There was legislation, bipartisan legislation, as we all know, that was worked with the most conservative members of the Republican Party in order to fix these issues, in order to fix issues of asylum, in order to get more immigration judges, in order to really fix this with a long-term plan. What did Donald Trump and the Republicans do? They torpedoed it. They blew it to pieces because they wanted to help Donald Trump's election chances. And guess what? I guess it worked. Congratulations. You screwed up the United States in order to get Donald Trump elected and screw up the United States even further. Congrats. Okay, but there was actual legislation going on there that would have handled this situation legally. But what this administration, what this regime has done is they've come in, kicked the door down like they're like the Kool-Aid man or something, and they've just thrown everything off the desks. They're just causing all of this chaos, and they're not doing anything by the law. So, there's not going to be anything durable and anything that's actually long lasting about anything they're doing here other than the terror that they have wrought on the United States of America. Because frankly, I don't think they're intelligent enough to actually get legislation passed. I don't think they're patient enough to get legislation passed. They just try to do everything by executive order and by fiat. And that's just not a way that you run the United States of America. It's a failed strategy, and it's going to fail. It's already failing, but we're seeing the consequences of this strategy.
Exactly. And look, it has to be said, that was one of the single worst performances that I've ever seen at any of these hearings. Like the fact that she was just like, I have another thing that I forgot. I got this other thing. I gotta go. I'll see y'all later. I mean, that was the most pathetic thing. I mean, put that in the history books, folks. And then you get Kristi Noem up there, right? She loves the cosplay, right? She's a firefighter one day. She's a construction worker the other day. She's on border patrol the next day.
A lot of costumes.
The thing is, you can't cosplay competency. And Kristi Noem got exposed up there. And props to Dan Goldman, man, for just being like, yo, I'm not talking about Joe Biden. You guys are the ones in charge right now. Let's have the conversation here. And just the reflex to just, it's for Noem to be like, but Biden. I just love that Goldman was like, I'm not talking about him. Let's have the conversation, you and I, considering you are the one in charge right now.
Do you remember when the Republicans brought Hillary Clinton in for the Benghazi hearings? Do you remember that? Remember she sat there, no breaks, 12 hours, answered every question, never said, I gotta go, I've got another commitment, sat there for 12 hours and made every one of the Republicans asking her questions look like utter fools. Now, ask yourself this. Similarly, special counsel Jack Smith has said over and over again, I want to testify publicly about all of the lies that you were telling about me. You have unlimited time, MAGA. You all want to go on your state regime media, which calls itself Fox, and you want to say that I was doing illegal things when Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort was searched with a valid search warrant. I can discuss what we found. I can discuss the case. I can talk about the January 6th prosecutions against Donald Trump before they were all dismissed because of the election, or Judge Cannon in Florida dismissing the Mar-a-Lago case because she was a Trump bootlicker and didn't follow the law and never got to its final stage on the appeals process because of the 2024 election. He's saying, you want to attack me? Unlimited time. I'll testify publicly before the world. And what do they say in the House and the Senate? All those tough MAGA people, and I'm saying that sarcastically. No, we cannot do that. Whoa, we cannot do that, right? What happens when in the civil case against Donald Trump relating to January 6th, documents are subpoenaed from the FBI about Trump's involvement in the January 6th insurrection? What does Trump do? Executive privilege. I'm not going to produce any documents at all. Isn't it something that the Republicans keep? Oh, and by the way, Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, right? He's refused to appear before the Budget Committee. The Office of Management and Budget, the guy who authored Project 2025. This never happened before ever, that the head of the budget from the executive office doesn't show up before the Budget Committee. And MAGA's like, yeah, why would we have the budget guy show up before us? Because he's the budget guy. That's why he's supposed to show up. So just ask yourself over and over again, and this is I'm speaking in a nonpartisan way. The Republicans are constantly hiding and manipulating, and people like Jack Smith and Hillary Clinton, you may disagree with them, you may like them, but they're certainly doing it publicly, right? Oh, and do you remember Hunter? When Hunter wanted to do it publicly, Hunter showed up after all the Hunter stuff, right? After, the Marjorie Taylor Greene showing the nudes of Hunter and Jim Jordan and James Comer. Hunter said, I'm here. Let's go and do it. I'll sit here as long as you want. No. We're gonna do that in a deposition privately. And you almost never heard them talk about that deposition again, right? Because they look bad. This is what we see over and over again. And this is the tactics of Putin and Russia and propagandists. It's why we got to bring transparency to this process.
Yeah, the biggest enemy of propagandists is the truth. And that's why they do everything they can in order to hide the truth from the people. And it's why their control over the platforms that disseminate the truth is so important to these folks. It's the reason why Elon Musk was willing to burn so much money to purchase Twitter, because he gets to dictate the algorithms, the flow of the information, and MAGA thrives when they're in charge of the algorithms and the flow of the information. That's why we see a lot of this consolidation happening in the media, and these Trump-friendly people, I'll be kind in saying it that way, you see them taking over a lot of these major media companies because they want to control the flow of the information getting to the people. And so it's one thing for these folks to go on X or whatever and talk about, oh, there's this major threat, it's Antifa, and, you know, spread all the various lies and conspiracy theories that they spread every day. But once they're actually confronted in a public forum about these things, you realize that there is nothing behind their statements whatsoever. They have nothing at all to back it up. You see that the emperor has no clothes in real time as you're watching them talk about this sort of stuff. So today there was another hearing down the hall from the Kristi Noem hearing, and one of these FBI officials, one of these Trump goons, was being questioned.
The lead guy over the Antifa task force, like the guy.
Yeah, like the Antifa task force, so ridiculous. But so this is like the guy, and his whole thing has been, you know, forget all those reports that we removed from the government websites that actually showed the American people the data, the accurate data, and said that most of the extremism and most of the violent acts in this country have been committed under the guise of right-wing violence. Forget all of that data, forget all of those facts. The real biggest threat to the United States is Antifa. And when Congressman Benny Thompson decided to confront him about Antifa, very basic facts about Antifa. Okay, so who is Antifa? Where is Antifa? Tell me anything about Antifa. You watch this whole facade, this whole propaganda regime crumble before your eyes. This was one of the most stunning clips that I think I've ever seen in a congressional hearing. You got to check this out.
Executive Order Domestic Terrorist Organization, Antifa. That's our primary concern right now.
All right, that's what President Trump did. What does the FBI say?
We share the same view. When you look at the data right now, you look at the domestic terrorist threat that we're facing. Right now, what I see from my position is that's the most immediate violent threat that we're facing on the domestic side.
So where is Antifa headquartered?
What we're doing right now with the organization.
Where in the United States does Antifa exist? Yeah. If it's a terrorist organization and you've identified it as number one.
We are building out the infrastructure right now.
So what does that mean? We're trying to get the information. You say Antifa is a terrorist organization. Tell us as a committee, how did you come to that? Where do they exist? How many members do they have in the United States as of right now?
Well, that's very fluid. It's ongoing for us to understand that. The same, no different than Al Qaeda and ISIS.
No, I don't want you. I'll ask one question, sir. I just want you to tell us. If you said Antifa is the number one domestic terrorist organization operating in the United States, I just need to know where they are, how many people. I don't want a name. I don't want anything like that. Just how many people have you identified with the FBI that Antifa is made of?
Well, the investigations are active.
Sir, you wouldn't come to this committee and say something you can't prove. I know. I know you wouldn't do that. But you did.
Incredible. And you know why? It's the simplicity of all of that. I mean, shout out Benny Thompson, man. That was awesome. I mean, he was just saying, where are they? Are they in the room with us right now? Where are they located? What have you identified? I mean, where does the Trump regime find these absolute creatures, man? He couldn't even respond. It was masterfully played by Benny Thompson right there. Shout out Benny Thompson. Brett.
Benny Thompson did a great job. I love how he's just like, the guy goes, we have all this data and we've compiled all this data and Antifa is the biggest. Okay, well, let's start with the data. Let's go through the data. Where are they? Who are they? Where are they? We're structuring something. I forget what he even said, but it's like, what are you talking? You just said you had the data. You can't answer a single question. And so that to me exposes everything about these people. And I think every single day you're seeing more and more people break away from this party, this Trump regime, this kind of whole entire MAGA takeover of the party. You're seeing it crumble. As I said, they've kind of become the establishment, and they're now seeing an insurgency, and there's going to be a fight within the Republican Party coming up, which is going to be, is going to get pulled further to the right and go into like that weirdo Nick Fuentes, like Tucker world, or are they going to be pulled back to some sort of normalcy? I think that's an internal battle that they are facing and we'll be monitoring here. But just on an objective, nonpartisan level, you should be able to answer those very simple questions. But it's clear that they are manipulating data. They don't want the American people to know the truth. And when they are asked very basic questions, they crumble because they are lying to you. And lying, no matter what party you are of, you should be able to look at that and say, that's not okay with me. I don't like our officials to be lying to my face like that. We got a lot more to talk about in this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. We got Indiana Republicans rebuking Donald Trump's backed maps with the redistricting efforts, despite all of the death threats, the bomb threats, everything that Trump has unleashed on these people. They rejected him. We get a lot of legal news and so much more here on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. Remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. We are on our way to 6 million subscribers. Make sure to subscribe to the MeidasTouch Podcast on audio, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you get your audio podcasts, and make sure to check us out on Substack, on Patreon, and all the things. And thank you so much for your support. We're going to be right back after this very quick break. Don't go anywhere. Ever stare at a wall of wine at the grocery store and feel like you're taking the SATs? Yeah, it's confusing. I've got enough going on juggling work, the news, and trying to not lose my mind. I don't need a wine anxiety spiral at the supermarket. That's why I started using Naked Wines. This episode is sponsored by Naked Wines, a wine club that directly connects you to the world's best independent winemakers so you can get world-class wine delivered straight to your door. Use our code Meidas, M-E-I-D-A-S, yes, that's the code and password, at nakedwines.com and get 6 bottles for just $39.99. I recently enjoyed a bottle of Syrah from Naked Wines from my last order, and let me tell you, that thing did not last long. I love cracking open a bottle of wine, putting my phone away, and actually being in the moment with family and friends, and Naked Wines makes that easy. Here's the best part. They bring you incredible wine straight from the wineries at up to 60% less than what you'd pay at the store. When you cut out the middleman, the winemakers pass the savings on to you without skimping on quality. Plain and simple, the wine is amazing. The more I rate them, the better my shipments get. I swear they've got my taste down to a science at this point. Now is the time to join the Naked Wines community. Head to nakedwines.com/Meidas, click enter voucher, and put in my code Meidas, M-E-I-D-A-S, for both the code and password for 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99 with shipping included. That's $100 off your first 6 bottles at nakedwines.com/Meidas and use the code and password Meidas for 6 bottles of wine for $39.99. You know, the holiday season is here and the kitchen is where it all goes down. And look, if you're wondering what to get the cook in your life or what to hint at for your own wish list, Hexclad is it. Personal note, I've been using Hexclad for a while now and I'm genuinely obsessed. The first time I used their pan, I actually said out loud, oh, so this is what cooking is supposed to feel like. The sear, perfect. The cleanup, effortless. And I'm not kidding. They look so sexy on the stovetop. I'm basically trading in my old cookware one sad pan at a time. Holiday season means big roasts, game day feasts, desserts, you name it. And if your current pans panic at high heat or burn the gravy, it is time for an upgrade. Enter Hexclad, the cookware that's as serious about performance as you are about carving that holiday turkey. Stainless steel strength, toxin-free nonstick convenience, and that sleek hybrid design everyone comments on when they come over. store. HexClad's 6-piece and 12-piece sets are incredible gifts whether you're starting fresh or going big. Every HexClad product comes with a lifetime warranty, so you're not just buying cookware, you are setting someone up for years of meals, memories, and celebrations. For a limited time, HexClad is having a huge holiday sale. Head to HEXCLAD.com to get up to 50% off. If you've been waiting for the perfect time to buy, this is it. That's hexclad.com for up to 50% off. After you purchase, they will ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, and there are, please let them know we sent you. Some great deals over there. Benji, where to next?
I like the description. Looks very sexy on the stove.
It does look sexy on the stove.
tell
You
you,
got
Red's
to see.
really
I get a lot of compliments on
Red's
that. I will
really
say.
good at the reads. In fact, yeah.
Well, also, because you know why? Because it comes from a place of passion. Last night, I used the HexClad last night. I made a penne alla vodka. I made the sauce in the HexClad. I cooked everything in the HexClad. And honestly, like I don't order in from the Italian places anymore because I cook it better. I'm not trying to brag over here, but the HexClad gets the job done in a really good way.
Benji, you know who was on the hot seat?
Oh.
You know who was getting grilled?
Oh, wow. Transition alert.
Great segue.
Karoline Leavitt was. That's all I got for you. These press conferences are just like they've exceeded Pink Dress Lady North Korea. Like they're in a whole nother like atmosphere. It's beyond Baghdad Bob. It's its own thing. So people will be like, oh, like in the future, like was that like a Leavitt? Like, and again, this would be parody and SNL scripts, and people would actually laugh if it wasn't actually real and harming so many people's lives. And so today, Karoline Leavitt, disastrous press conference. You come up with another word other than disastrous for me, but like it was actually like a freaking disaster. And so and by the way, hat tip to the press, like they're actually asking good questions now. Like they're helping each other, they're working as one, and they really are asking good questions. Not all of them, let me be very clear. Like a lot of them are still awful. But this White House group, by and large, there's a good group of them who are asking good questions and finally being supportive of each other. And it seems that they've had enough as well. So one thing that she's asked about is, Donald Trump keeps walking out with these bandages like on his hand, like over and over and over again. Like his hand like is like discolored and they keeps walking out with these bandages. So like clearly something's happening. He's getting IV or injections quite frequently, and his hand is discolored. As I've mentioned, it looks like his hand was put in like a piranha tank, and he goes out there and he tries to hide it. And so, Karoline, why is he wearing these bandages on his hand all the time? Let's play it.
Yes, in the blue.
Caroline?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. The President's been spotted out and about a number of times with bandages on his hands. Could you please explain what that is about? Secondly, he noted on Truth Social the other day that he had aced 3 cognitive tests. Could you please clarify when those tests took place?
I can do that at a later date. I obviously don't have that in front of me. The President has spoken about that quite extensively throughout the years. As for the bandages on the hand, we've also given you an explanation for that in the past. The President is literally constantly shaking hands. The Oval Office is like Grand Central Terminal. He is meeting with more people than any of you even know about on a daily basis. He's also on a daily aspirin regimen, which is something his physical examinations has said in the past as well, which can contribute to that bruising that you see.
The bruising is because of lots of handshakes and aspirin. Got it. Okay, let's just move on there because that made a ton of sense. I'm being sarcastic, of course. Then we'll talk about all these clips. But I'll ask Brett and Jordy their reaction. But first, Karoline Leavitt is asked, about inflation because Karoline Leavitt during this presser kept on saying inflation is down. It's down on average. It's down over the year, and it's not. It's up. It's up. And CPI is around 3% year over year. So 3% higher than Biden right now, when Trump's promise is that he would bring the prices lower than Biden. And now it's 3% higher and going up. So Leavitt's like, no, it's at 2.5%. And then the reporter's like, no, It's 3%. And Leavitt's like, no. My piece of paper says 2.5. So I'm just going to go with what is on this piece of paper. It's 3. Here, play this clip.
Just first, very quickly, clarifying Caitlin's question. You acknowledged that CPI in January when you took office was 3%, and in September, the last month for which we have data, it was also 3%, so inflation.
No, it's 2.5%.
Not in September, it was 3%.
It's 2.5%. The average CPI right now, I have it in front of me. In President Trump's first 8 months in office, inflation as measured by the overall consumer price index has slowed to a 2.5 average pace. This is down from the 2.9% inherited in January.
January is 1 month.
In the back.
Okay, can I ask you about the AC?
Okay, just my piece of paper says it, so I'm just going to go and say it. Like, okay, wrong. And then Caitlin Collins from CNN asked a good question. Okay, if the economy is so strong, it's doing great, everyone's thriving right now, okay, why when Donald Trump spoke at that weird casino banquet hall at Mount Airy Casino in Pennsylvania in front of like 150 people, why did he tell them that they should only purchase like 2 pencils and 2 dolls, and that people in China should get more pencils and dolls than people in the United States, which is exactly what Donald Trump said? Why is that, Karoline? Should we be rationing pencils and dolls in a way that China is able to get more pencils and dolls? Here, play this clip.
2 questions. I have one on Venezuela to follow up, but first on affordability, since we were talking about the economy at the beginning. If the economy is as strong as the president has said it is, then why is he telling parents 2 weeks before Christmas that they should only buy 2 or 3 dolls for their children?
Look, what the president is saying is that if we want products made right here in America, if we want them to be made from American small businesses, which is a large part of the reason the president has effectively implemented tariffs, then we're going to have better quality products right here in the United States. Maybe you'll pay $1 or 2 more, but you will get better quality and you'll be supporting your fellow Americans by buying American, and that's what the president was saying. Again, with respect to affordability, every economic metric, Caitlin, and I wish you would report more on it, does in fact show that the economy is getting better and brighter than where it was under the previous administration. I will repeat, inflation.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Okay. And again, what Donald Trump meant by that is that it's going to be higher quality products made in America. Okay, let's just play what Donald Trump said at the casino banquet hall. Let's play it.
Security. We need, the one thing you need steel. You know, you can give up certain products. You can give up pencils. Because under the China policy, you know, every child can get 37 pencils. They only need 1 or 2, you know. They don't need that many. But you always need steel. You don't need 37 dolls for your daughter. 2 or 3 is nice, but you don't need 37 dolls. So we're doing things right.
Okay, that's what he said. Again, objectively, you could judge that for yourself, but that's what he said. And then finally, we learned that Donald Trump gave China access to the H200 NVIDIA chips, which for national security purposes was never been granted to China. And Trump just gave it to China. He just put on a social media post, I'm giving the H200 chips to China. And Trump said he's doing it for $25%, which I guess means 25% or $25. It's unclear because there's a typo written. Let's just assume 25%. Okay, 25% of what? China's going to pay us 25% for the China, the buyer, and they're going to pay us 25% for the chip. And after they buy one chip, you think they're going to buy the second? Wouldn't they just buy one, take it, and then give it to Huawei and their own company who's building the same chips, and then they'll just build it themselves and they'll accelerate their program? Like, don't you think that? And that's why we've previously restricted China from getting these H200 chips, so much so that on the day Trump announced he was giving China the H200 chips, the DOJ prosecuted individuals for trying to serve as middlemen or middle people to deliver the H200 chips to China. This is the most highly prized American national security IP, and we're just going to give it to China. Do you know, by the way, what China did right away? Do you think they said, excellent, we're going to do an order of all of the chips? No, they did exactly what I said. They said, we'll buy 1 or 2 of them. They immediately said, thank you, but we're going to put controls on what can be purchased by Chinese companies, and we'll just take a few of them, and then we'll give it to Huawei, and Huawei will make it. So Karoline Leavitt was asked, why is he doing that? Like, why does that help the United States? Here, play this clip.
Philip.
Thank you, Caroline. On these advanced NVIDIA H200 chips, why is the president willing to allow China to have access to one of America's chief technological advantages?
Look, I will tell you just a couple of things. The president put out his own statement on this, which I do think highlights his exact thinking. What you see from the president on Truth Social is most of the time what you hear from the president behind closed doors privately. He told President Xi that NVIDIA will only be shipping H200 products to approved customers in China under conditions that will allow for continued strong national security. The administration continues to maintain a strict export control regime, and we are ensuring that the Blackwell chip and other advanced technologies stay right here in America, and these H200 chips will only be sent to China after undergoing a security inspection here in the United States. Elizabeth.
And who's going to staff those security inspections when we fired the competent people in the government, number one? Is it going to be people like Lindsay Halligan, who can't even figure out how to walk through the hallways of a courtroom, but a version of that in national security? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Pete Hegseth's crew? Okay. And did you realize that her statement like literally was just a bunch of gibberish? We're going to give it to them for their national security. For our national security, we're giving it to them for national security. What are you even talking? Like just a bunch of gibberish. Brett, Jordy, you saw all of those clips. Who gave a worse performance? Kristi Noem, that FBI agent, or Karoline Leavitt right there?
I think this one's a wash, Ben. I think they all take the top title, or maybe the bottom title. I don't know how you consider it here, but like it's just like, I hate to say it, but these are just fundamentally broken, evil people who are pushing things to support a fundamentally broken and evil regime. And they're also often just incredibly stupid. Like, we're seeing Trump in this China situation particularly in real time, in public, on social media, on television, like negotiating against himself. Like, I thought the whole concept behind the tariffs was this was going to give the United States strength, and we were going to be able to bully these countries into submission, and they were going to do exactly what we wanted because they are so threatened by Donald Trump's tariffs. The opposite is happening. We're panicking. The United States is panicking. Our farmers are panicking. Our government is panicking because they're seeing the livelihoods of people like our farmers go down in the toilet because of these tariffs. And now they are rushing to try to patch up the holes that they've caused. So they're going, oh, we need soybeans. Soybeans. What are we going to do about the soybeans problem that we caused? China, do you want our chips that we need for our nationals? Do you want our most advanced AI chips that we have that you are desperate for? That the only reason you are behind in this AI race is because you don't have these. Please take them and please give us a fraction of the soybeans that you were giving us before any of this even happened. Like, the stupidity is just crazy to me, and it's really a danger to America's national security in the process. And like I said, it's damaging the livelihoods of so many Americans, all to support this failed tariff strategy that we are seeing, just putting tariffs on everything without any sort of thought behind it. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. It's one thing if you want to do targeted tariffs. And by the way, if you did targeted tariffs, you would probably target industries like this in China to ensure that the United States has a competitive advantage. You wouldn't go here, take all of our chips. Like, just none of this is making any sense whatsoever. And the more that Karoline Leavitt continues to hide behind this, Donald Trump's hands are just the way that they are because he shakes a lot of hands. Every president, every public figure shakes a whole lot of hands. Their hands don't look like Donald Trump's. Their ankles don't look like Donald Trump's. And his whole everything, they don't look like that. And so we already know that something...
like tennis players. You know, like people like people who like literally do all this stuff with their hands.
Yeah, maybe get a blister or two. But like the more that they try to use these excuses rather than level with the American people about whatever the heck is going on, the more my mind starts racing as to, okay, what is actually wrong with this guy? Like, they're clearly trying to hide something, because if they weren't trying to hide something, they would just be honest with the American people. And the reason that it sounds so ridiculous, all the comments that they say, is because it's all bullshit to cover for the truth, which they are too afraid of letting out in public.
Absolutely. And that's where I want to start here. Brett, chief propagandist Karoline Leavitt. I mean, what a performance. Donald Trump has all of those bruises and bandages because he's out there literally shaking so many hands. I mean, you simple-minded people, you guys can't even fathom the amount of hands he's out there shaking. And look, this is why I say at a certain point, I don't even believe what we're doing here is political. Plain and simple, I just don't want to be lied to and I don't want to be gaslit. I think it's vital that the American people know what's going on with Donald Trump and his failing health. At this point, he's likely at stage 5 CVI. He's constantly taking cognitive tests. He's falling asleep in every meeting, apparently. And he's got more bruises on his hand than Rocky Balboa after the 12th round. We just demand legitimate explanations. And the best thing that the American people can get is Karoline Leavitt up there saying that he has so much bruising because he's shaking a ton of hands. Don't piss on my face and tell me it's raining. This should be a bipartisan take. And yet there's an entire political party out there, MAGA, who loves the piss. They're, please, sir, keep pissing in my face. More piss. It's disgusting. And we here at the MeidasTouch Network demand answers, legitimate answers, and just stop gaslighting us, man. It's bonkers to me. By the way, that clipped out of context is going to be a crazy clip for the internet.
The phrase, I don't think the phrase is "don't piss on my face." I think it's "don't piss on my head."
It's the same thing.
The face just
loves it. More piss.
The face makes it extra graphic.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be
very graphic. Well, look, because if there was some other explanation for it, look, every week he goes and gets this IV there because it's helpful, for oxygen or whatever it is. If there was a real reason, you'd be like, okay, I mean, an explanation that was not serious. You'd say, okay, that makes sense or that makes sense. When you say it was caused by him shaking hands, it's just the stupidest thing. So you can only then give the inference that it is, to your point, that it's bad, that they really need to hide this. And that's why people have been suggesting, I don't know one way or another. Again, this is opinion, First Amendment protected opinion speech. Let me just be very clear. It's opinion. People have been saying, is this a Leqembi infusion, which is a small IV line typically placed, it could be either in the arm, but lots of Leqembi patients have it right there in the hand. And it's for early Alzheimer's. It's about a 1-hour infusion every 2 weeks. You see, that's what it looks like on the hand when you do it. It targets cognitive decline, early when you're monitoring for the side effects of this. Specifically, one of the side effects is brain swelling and bleeding. You do MRIs relatively frequently. And, and again, I don't know if that's that or the other, but when you go and you say these ridiculous things, I then go to, okay, well, hypothetically, again, this is hypothetical, it seems like you're hiding really bad stuff. And then when I watch his speeches, do we have the clip of him doing the weave, Brett, where he goes weave? I'm not sure if we have that one, where I watch these speeches that he gives, or let's play the one where he talks about the weave. And then there's one where he goes, before that, let's play the one where he goes, referring to the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. He goes, the deadhead, bedhead, fedhead, bedhead, bedhead, fedhead. He's not even speaking sentences. It's like a weird Dr. Seuss rhyme. Let's play that one first if we got it.
3 and 4. We're scheduled to be at 4%, which is pretty amazing because we have a deadhead fed hair. I mean, this guy, the head of the Federal Reserve is a stiff.
All right, then play the one where he's at that banquet hall talking about his weave. Let's play it.
So it's November 5th. And it's also, again, it's a thing called tariffs. And I told you, I was about to say that, because I love the weave. You know what the weave is? You go here, bing, 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 bing. You always have to get back to the right location. But otherwise, they'll criticize you for straying from the speech. By the way, if I read what's on the teleprompter, you'd all be falling asleep right now. But
there's nothing funny about that. It's odd. It's strange. I really just want a normal human being to be in that.
You noticed also the defenses that the Trump officials are trying to do for his behavior, put forward for his behavior. they all make it all much worse. Like there was Howard Lutnick. He went out there. He was on like the shows this morning. He was like, the thing about Donald Trump, that guy does not sleep. He barely sleeps a few hours. He sleeps less than I sleep.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
First off, that's never been a flex to me that you don't sleep. Like that's not healthy. Like you're probably not doing your best and being your best version of yourself during the day if you don't sleep. But it's also a sign of dementia if you're not getting any sleep. Like people who have dementia have a lot of difficulty sleeping through the night. And so the more they try to act like this is like, projecting power because the guy gets no sleep every night, the more I'm like, what are they trying to cover? Enough of this North Korea style propaganda. Just level with us and tell us the truth about what's going on.
I'd like him to sleep at night because then he would, well, who knows? I would like him not to be president. Let me be very clear. The point I'm making is that we see him sleeping during the day, during his meetings. So, I don't know what's better.
Which goes with the diagnosis, as I was saying. They don't sleep at night, and then you nod off during the day. It's called sundowning. It happens.
We see him sleep, but we see him with our own eyes. So,
by the way, are we just going to gloss over the fact that he called Jerome Powell the Fed hair?
No, that wasn't. He just mumbled. He didn't say words.
The clip was that's what he said.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, imagine if Biden did it. Everyone's favorite game. Imagine Biden did that. I mean, but this whole delivery, the Fed had blah 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 blah,
and then it's like, okay, dude, this guy's not okay. Like this guy's like something seriously wrong with this guy. Don't gaslight me. No, there's nothing wrong with him. That's just what intelligence is.
Yeah, that leader of the Fed who was signed in by the Biden auto pen. Dude, you nominated him, bro. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, people?
All right, let's take our last quick break of the show. When we come back, I want to discuss what happened in Indiana. I want to discuss what happened when Trump tried to re-indict New York Attorney General Letitia James. Again, we'll talk about that and much more. A reminder, we are on our way to 6 million subscribers. You may think you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, but you may not actually be subscribed. So just double check that you are subscribed and hit subscribe now. Also subscribe to the MeidasTouch audio podcast. And it helps us a lot. If you're not an audio listener, just go wherever you get podcasts, audio podcasts, and just search MeidasTouch. It helps us a lot on the algorithm there too. So take our last quick break of the show. We'll be right back.
Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. Look, data brokers make a profit off your data. Your data is a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details, and that can lead to identity theft attempts, phishing, and harassment. But now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. As someone with an active online presence, privacy is really important to me. I've seen how fast your information can spread online and how removing your data from hundreds of data broker websites can help you protect yourself. If you haven't been a victim of identity theft or online harassment, you probably know someone who has, and Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/Meidas and use promo code Meidas at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/Meidas and enter code Meidas at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/Meidas, code Meidas, MEIDAS.
Big moments deserve less stress and more confidence. When an ED shows up in the bedroom, Hims helps you keep your cool and focus on what matters most, the moment, not the worry. Through Hims, you can access personalized prescription treatment options for ED, like hard mints and Sex RX Plus Climax Control, if prescribed. Hims offers access to ED treatment options ranging from trusted generics that cost 95% less than brand names to hard mints, if prescribed. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hims brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. This isn't one-size-fits-all care that forgets you in the waiting room. It's your health and goals put first, with real medical providers making sure you get what you need to get results. Think of Hims as your digital front door that gets you back to your old self with simple 100% online access to trusted treatments for ED and more, all in one place. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/Meidas. That's hims.com/Meidas for your free online visit. hims.com/Meidas. Actual price will depend on product and subscription plan. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information.
Look, starting a new business can be intimidating. I get it. MeidasTouch Network was not built overnight. You need the tools to help you engage in the day-to-day tasks, the growth. And so it's why we use Shopify. It made things easy for us. And I think you should use Shopify too. So Shopify is a commerce platform. It is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. From household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands like the MeidasTouch Network. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand style, accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Even if you don't, easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling to the MeidasTouch Network. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert. And with its world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond, you can count on Shopify. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. So turn your big business idea into boom, boom, boom with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Meidas. Go to shopify.com/Meidas. One more time. That's shopify.com/Meidas.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Benji, where to next?
Where to? Indiana, Jordy, where the Indiana State Senate rejected Donald Trump's gerrymander plan. And it wasn't even close. The bill was soundly defeated 31-19.
Okay, Hoosiers, okay.
A lot of those Republican senators there did not back down after Donald Trump's threats. And Donald Trump repeatedly, on a day-to-day basis, threatened those state senators and lawmakers. I mean, basically threatened their life. He would put their names out there. He'd call them despicable human beings. He would say horrible things about them. He would talk about challenging them and primarying them. And then you had basically an arm of the Trump regime, the Heritage Action, which is like the political action arm of the Heritage Foundation, which wrote Project 2025, which Trump wrote. President Trump has made it clear to Indiana leaders, if the Indiana Senate fails to pass the map, all federal funding will be stripped from the state. Roads will not be paved. Guard bases will close. Major projects will stop. These are the stakes. And every no vote will be to blame. Hashtag pass the map. Like, do you remember when Republicans pretended to be about states' rights? And now, remember the don't tread on me flags, right? I mean, the same way they pretended to be China hawks. Remember, they were China hawks. They would protect Taiwan. Right now, Donald Trump's like, let's just give China like all of our chips. And let's not even allow the president of Taiwan to use airspace in the United States. And let's basically sell out Japan and South Korea to China. All of their frameworks of things that they create, it's just the frameworks of sociopaths. They create the framework to get whatever conclusion that they want. And the conclusion that they want is that they want their own little Kim Jong-un in the United States. They just want an authoritarian. So they want kings. So whatever it is that gets them there, that's the framework that they use. It's intellectually dishonest because it's not intellectual. It's just authoritarianism masked as intellectual frameworks. But I can do a whole rant on that another day. So Donald Trump, though, after losing, And again, he also lost his other major endorsements also as well. He endorsed the Republican mayor for Miami, and the Democratic candidate Eileen Higgins won that race. Earlier in the week, you had the Democrat flipping a House District 121 at the state house level in Georgia, where a Democrat lost by like 40 points. Back in 2024, that same Democrat ran again, Eric Gissler, and then won by 2 points against a MAGA Republican in an ultra red district right there. So Trump's endorsements not carrying the weight really that they used to would be an understatement. And here was Trump from the Oval Office earlier saying that I wasn't really paying attention to Indiana that much. Like it wasn't really my thing. I wasn't focused on it. Here, play this clip.
Thank you, Peter.
Mr. President, in Indiana, just a few moments ago, the Senate there rejected the congressional maps to redistrict in that state. A number of Republicans voted against that redistricting effort. You have spent a lot of time talking about this. The Vice President traveled to Indiana. What's your reaction?
Well, we won every other state. That's the only state. It's funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide. And I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that. You had one gentleman, the head of the Senate, I guess, Bray.
I wasn't working on it really hard. But when you see that, though, and again, Jordy, this is a point you made earlier in the show, too. Not through a lens as like a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. Like objectively, you worked very hard. You were posting on a daily basis about this. You made this a cause that resulted in many of these Indiana Republican lawmakers getting death threats. The Heritage Foundation put out that statement. Don Jr. made a similar type of threat. You've made many threats on a daily basis. And now that's your response. And so what I see right there, and trust me, what America's enemies see, who I guess Donald Trump now considers their allies, they see a deranged, delusional loser, a weak, pathetic individual rotting away there who is all over the place, who is an easy mark. That's what they see when they look at that, Brett, Jordy.
Yeah, it's such a disgrace. And what a line. Did you mention too that he sent JD Vance to Indiana multiple times? I forget if he said that.
The reporter asked that in the question.
Yeah, the reporter. Yeah. So it's like they went all in on this and they got humiliated. But that's why I think first off, as Ben was going through, the races that we saw earlier this week, a lot of these gerrymander attempts have been backfiring on the Republicans because they're stupidly, through Donald Trump's, big brain over here, they're basing it on the 2024 election results, not taking into the account that Trump's approval and all of the various shifts that happened during that 2024 election have been completely reversed, and that Trump has like a 30% approval rating and most of the country hates him. So they're still relying on these old maps, which no longer exist. So in the case of Georgia, as Ben was saying before, we see that was an attempt of them to gerrymander that district. And in order to gerrymander these districts, they have to take from other districts. So they weaken other districts in order to try to give more support to the Republicans in certain districts. They end up actually screwing themselves multiple ways. And so that's one of where they call it a dummy mander. It's one of the things that they're also worried about in Texas, despite the fact that they were so brazen that they openly said in all their documentation and emails and messages that we're doing this based on race. This is all a racial gerrymander. The Supreme Court let them go along with it. But a lot of people are saying they're judging this based on Latino voting trends in 2024, but all the Latinos have swung back to the Democrats and in a very big way. So there's a good chance, like in Texas, that they're not even going to pick up all those seats that they thought that they did. And so I think the Indiana Republicans on some level realize that. I think they also realize that the Democrats are not messing around right now. We saw Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom out here in California really taking charge and taking the lead here and let everybody know. He put all these Republicans on notice. You're going to do this. We're going to fight back. And Democrats here in California overwhelmingly passed Prop 50. That could have been a complete humiliation if Newsom went all in on this and it didn't work, but it passed overwhelmingly. It really shifted the narrative. And then you had all these other states standing up saying, okay, if Indiana's going to do that, we're going to do that. You see Virginia saying stuff like that. So there has been this back and forth of this gerrymandering that all started because of what Texas decided to do in the middle of the decade, which is not how you're supposed to do these things. And now they are reaping what they sowed here. You see, even right now, as Donald Trump made those comments to the press, you see people like Donald Trump's own son, Donald Trump Jr., saying, I guess it's time to overthrow these Republicans in Indiana. They're already talking about ousting these people and replacing them with more MAGA-aligned people. But I think one of the things that they haven't quite realized yet in this White House is that people are kind of done with them. Like even their own party is kind of done with them. Like you see even Marjorie Taylor Greene is done with them. They just don't have the clout and the power and the pull that they once had, but they don't quite realize that yet. But every single day, we're seeing more and more evidence that that's the case.
I just want to pass it to Jordy, but I want to say one thing that you said there, Brett. It's because they never actually wielded their power. They had the perception of power, and what they utilized it for was for the least powerful things. They took power and strength and the perception of it and actually demonstrated the weakness. What Gavin Newsom would always say is that their strength masquerading as it's weakness masquerading as strength, rather weakness masquerading as strength. But the reality is that now it's weakness masquerading as weakness.
By the way, and sorry, before I pass the torch, if Donald Trump really wanted to deliver a fatal blow to the Democratic Party and really wield his power, and these Republicans really wanted to wield their power, it frankly would have been very simple. All he would have had to do is behave semi-normally and actually just do things that the American people care about, like declare a national emergency on high prices and deal with the immigration system, but deal with it in a humane way and deal with deportations of people who actually have criminal records. But they came in like a freaking wrecking ball and damaged everything in their wake rather than help with the affordability issue, which was a big reason why people like to say Donald Trump got elected. You could debate that as you will. But instead of dealing with the affordability issue, Donald Trump decided to increase prices by implementing mass tariffs on every single country. And they've been so brazen, so in your face, so destructive. If they really wanted to wield power, all they had to do was be normal and actually do things that the American people wanted them to do. But they could not control themselves because you're dealing with a bunch of power-hungry maniacs who just aren't doing anything with any sort of tact. They're just throwing everything to the wall and are trying to do the shock and awe approach. And I think we're seeing that is backfiring instead of helping them.
Exactly. Look, these people are sociopaths. They're also egomaniacs. And what do sociopaths and egomaniacs need to do? They need to put their fingerprints on everything. Tariffs like this. We're going to just tariff it all. East wing of the White House. Bye. We're going to create a ballroom. These people are nuts. Like objectively, they are out of their damn minds. And when it comes to Donald Trump, I mean, just a global embarrassment. He makes the world look bad. It's wild to me. When he's talking about Indiana, he sounds like a child. He does. He sounds like a kid who was playing a game that lost the game, and not to put it in these terms, and it was like, you know what? Wasn't even trying, just so he could cope. It's really pathetic when you look at that man. You're like, that's the president of the United States. It's supposed to be a serious position. He's one of the most unserious people that I've ever seen. And it's frustrating to me, and it deeply upsets me as someone who genuinely loves this country.
And anybody who remains a serious person, he purges, right? Like he is repugnant to seriousness. And that's a big problem because even look at his first term, he hires a guy like Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell, say what you want about the guy. I mean, he's a serious guy with a serious background, as an economist and a central banker who knows what he's doing. And he looks at the data and he presents it based on the mandate of our central bank, our Federal Reserve. And whether you like it or not, this is the data. And when we know the data, we can figure out how we address it and adapt to it. So, what Trump will do when it comes to housing is Trump, and we heard this all week. I don't need to play all the clips of it, but this is what Trump runs on in general, that the housing crisis is caused by migrants, that it's caused by they're taking your housing, and that's why housing is not affordable. And so the more you deport, the more affordable housing becomes. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's not even close to being on the mark. We have a supply side issue when it comes to housing, and the supply of housing has been depleted because private equity is buying up housing, commoditizing it, and selling it in a different variation of what we saw during the housing crisis, where they bundled the mortgages. Well, now they buy the property and bundle the mortgages together. They do both, okay? Like, why would we just commoditize the mortgages? Let's buy those and let's package them. And they did them on a subprime level. But now they're like, then let's lend to ourselves, and then let's put that on our balance sheet and show profits and raise our stock prices. So that was the learning. And when you remove all regulation, how is a new home potential buyer, new buyer on the market, or any American going to compete with private equity over the purchase of a home? It's just not going to happen, right? So how would you address housing responsibly? Congress can pass legislation to build more houses, like build them. There were those smaller homes that you can build. I forget what they call them, that, the prefab homes, and there's ways to do it. And we could, maybe that's the right way. Who knows? But like, imagine if the $200 billion that went to ICE, or the extra hundreds of billions that went to the military industrial complex, went to healthcare and went to housing. In fact, from the National Defense Authorization Act, they removed language that dealt with improving the supply side of housing. But just think about if all of these massive resources and the Elon Musks and the Bezoses and all of these people, right, that their focus was, let's do a national effort to build homes. That's what happened in the 40s and the 50s after that was part of the housing boom, but that's not what's happening. So,
and Ben, to me, that is the most upsetting thing about this. It's just how great this country could really be if all of these people who wielded all of this power and had all of this money actually wanted to be in this together and actually wanted to do some damn good, other than buying their 30th yacht. To me, that is the most disappointing thing about the human experiment here. Is just
the most dangerous thing is that, they blame everything on migrants. Like Ben was saying before, they want to say that all of society's ills, all of your problems, whether you can't afford a home, whether things are too expensive, whether, I don't know, you can't get a girlfriend, like somehow it all comes down to it's migrants' fault, it's immigrants' fault, it's black and brown people's fault, it's gay people's fault. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of J.D. Vance wielding his power as the vice president to push disgraceful messaging like that. J.D. Vance likes to call everything disgusting. That's disgusting. Well, that's freaking disgusting to me, okay? And he damn well knows better. And to blame all of society's ills on people who have nothing to do with these issues, when the real problem at the end of the day are the billionaires, for the most part, to try to redirect people's attention, people who are begging for help in these situations, to say, don't look at the billionaires who are screwing you, look at these innocent people over here who don't look like you. That brings back to mind some of the worst parts of world history, and it is a freaking disgrace.
And that's it exactly, Brett, right? We've all learned this growing up in school or whatnot, and we just think at this point, we should be better off as a society, other than continuing to try and scapegoat the other. Like, we all know world history, we know U.S. history, and yet there's still so many folks in this country that are eagerly awaiting to scapegoat the next person. It's wild to me.
I just want people to watch what a serious individual looks like. I mean, like, he's just giving the data, right? Like, here was Jerome Powell. He's talking about housing. Here's what he says about the current housing situation and whether the interest rate drops, these 25 basis point interest rate drops, are going to make any meaningful difference when it comes to the supply of housing. Play this clip.
And just quickly, you mentioned the housing market remains kind of weak. With these rate cuts that we've seen, is there a chance we're going to see more affordability in the housing market so more people can maybe enjoy that part of wealth creation? I mean, the average age or median age of a first-time home buyer is now 40 years old. That's the highest on record.
Yeah, so the housing market faces some really significant challenges. And I don't know that, a 25 basis point decline in the federal funds rate is going to make much of a difference for people. Housing supply is low. Many people have very, very low low-rate mortgages from the pandemic period, and they kept refinancing and got the really low. So it's made it expensive for them to move, and we're a ways away from that changing. Also, we haven't built enough housing in the country for a long time, and so a lot of estimates suggest that we just need more housing of different kinds. So housing is going to be a problem, and really the tools to address it are we can raise and lower interest rates, but we don't really have the tools to address a secular housing shortage, a structural housing shortage.
So isn't that so boring? Isn't that boring? Good. It should be, because he gave you the data and the facts, right? That's what I want to see. And then we can figure out, how do we legislate around it and come up with a problem? Okay, got it. Maybe we need to build more homes. How do we do that? Let's do debates and let's figure out, okay, well, how do we improve the supply of housing? Let's figure out, do we need to limit private equity's ownership of housing? Let's debate it. I think we should, but let's have like an honest discussion about it. It's like the same thing with healthcare. You all know from watching this that I support Medicare for all, and I support Medicare for all single payer. That's what I want to see. The alternative is an Obamacare with subsidies, which we've seen tried to kind of reach this compromise between, extending healthcare to 20 to 30 million people who didn't have it, and the market forces that exists. And there are problems with it, but more people seem to support Obamacare than not, because they would otherwise die if they don't get their healthcare. But are there ways to improve it? Let's discuss. MAGA Republicans, do you have another plan? And you can't just keep saying, get rid of all insurance companies when tomorrow. When are you going to do this? Give people $2,000. And then what's going to happen when people have surgeries or need chemo or need to get MRIs or need to do whatever? Like the $2,000 that you're not even going to give, because that's a fraud also, the same way you said there'd be Doge dividend checks. But if you want to bring it up publicly, then maybe we hold hearings about it that the American people can see, and we can talk about it, and we can make intelligible decisions. Like that's actually what I want to see, what I want to see take place in government. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump roll out the gold card, the Trump gold card. Are you an immigrant with over $5 million at a corporation, or individually $1 million? Well, you can get your hands on a Trump gold card today, a direct path for citizenship. So exciting. It's a Trump card. It's gold, and it's got Donald Trump's face on it. Ha ha, everybody. Isn't this cool? No. What are we doing here? What is that? That's not a solve to anything. Who do you think is going to be buying these cards, right? I'll tell you what the plan really is here, though. Do we have the clip of Donald Trump saying that from Pennsylvania that he doesn't want people from shithole countries? That just goes out and says it. Do we have that clip of him? If we do, let's play that clip.
And they've been taken care of. I've also announced a permanent pause on third world migration, including from hellholes like Afghanistan, Haiti, Somalia, and many other countries. I didn't say shithole, you did. Remember I said that to the senators they came in, the Democrats. They wanted to be bipartisan. So they came in and they said, this is totally off the record. Nothing mentioned here. We want to be honest because our country was going to hell. And we had a meeting. And I say, why is it we only take people from shithole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let us have a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people, do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting, ridden with crime. The only thing they're good at is going after ships.
He's saying that he doesn't want people from countries that have black people, right? And he wants people from countries that have white people. And the gold card, just like Donald Trump's history of discriminating against black people, is a way to basically say This card, in Trump's own mind, is a barrier for Black and brown people getting into the United States unless they're sponsored by a corporation, which would usually be run by a white person or a wealthy person, in which case then they get a pass. So that's the gold card is like a America version of what, like redlining, right? But that's the gold, but whatever you call it, it is a gimmick, and a racist gimmick, but a gimmick versus how do we actually address what's systemically happening with our country. I'll show you one other clip of Jerome Powell, where he talks about inflation and jobs and this dual role of, trying to help employment and make more people employed while lowering inflation. That's called the dual mandate of the Fed. Watch what he says here. Let's play it.
The official report on the labor market for September, the most recent release, showed that the unemployment rate continued to edge up, reaching 4.4%, and that job gains had slowed significantly since earlier in the year. In the near term, risks to inflation are tilted to the upside, and risks to employment to the downside, a challenging situation. There is no risk-free path for policy as we navigate this tension between our employment and inflation goals. A reasonable base.
Brett, Jordy, you see right there. I mean, I just want to show you a serious approach, and that guy's under attack by the Trump regime versus an unserious approach. I'm not going to play the clips of Howard Lutnick. It's just ridiculous, but it's deeply unserious.
Yeah, the difference between like us and Canada is Canada saw a guy like that in their country, and they said, "Let's make this guy president." He knows the economy. Let's make this guy prime minister rather. And Donald Trump just craps on this guy every single day. And it's also just ironic when you look at the countries that Donald Trump mentioned: Norway, Sweden, Denmark. If you look at how they feel about Donald Trump may like those people, but the people from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark do not like Donald Trump very much. I mean, just look at this. This is voting information. Like, how would people from these countries have voted in 2024? And it is overwhelming. In Norway, Harris 86%, Trump 12%. In Sweden, Harris 90%, Trump 10%. In Denmark, Harris 96%, Trump 4%. So, Donald, I hate to break it to you, I don't think the feeling is mutual. And in one of those Howard Lutnick clips that we're not going to play right now, and one of the things that Donald Trump, what they say about these gold cards is, we're going to get the richest people. That means we're going to get the best and the brightest people in this country, the most brilliant, the rich. That's where the rich are. It really gives away their entire worldview. If you have a lot of money, they view you as being smart. If you have a lot of money, they view you as being special. If you're wealthy, they think about you in one way. And if you're not super rich, they think you're scum. They think you're part of the shithole. And that's how this administration views the people. That's why this con that they pulled over working people in our country, it's like, just look at the things they are saying, because they are saying it out loud. They think money equals brilliance. They think money equals character. And that cannot be further from the truth.
Exactly. And look, as we start to wind down this episode, I'm thinking back to how we began it. And just again, shout out to those Democratic Congress folks this morning who just crushed it, who went out there and just simply stated the facts, did it with truth. And look, I'm not here to carry water for a political party or anything like that, but it's just the obvious. When you deal with facts, when you deal with the truth, when you deal with receipts, it's a very easy thing to do. Yet Donald Trump and the Trump regime just are constantly lying and gaslighting the American people. It couldn't be more clear where the American people are at this moment. They are sick of being gaslit. They are tired of being lied to, and they are craving the facts, the data, and the receipts. And that's why, too, I just want to take a special moment here to shout out this community. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty. Thank you to all the viewers, the watchers, the YouTube channel. Thank you to all the audio listeners. Just thank you guys for staying with us every step of the way and letting us give you the facts, data, and receipts on every episode. So genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank y'all.
And that just brings me to just the final topic quickly we'll mention, is that the Trump DOJ tried yet again to get an indictment of New York Attorney General Letitia James. And you may be saying, but didn't they do that already? Yeah, and didn't they do that before then? Yes, just so you remember. Initially, the indictment got dismissed because Lindsay Halligan was an unlawful prosecutor. She was not allowed to be a United States attorney, so the case against James and Comey got dismissed. Then the Trump DOJ, after the case gets dismissed, they try to re-indict New York Attorney General Letitia James in Norfolk, in Virginia. And the grand jury rejects it. You know how they say ham sandwich can be indicted? Well, they weren't able to indict the ham sandwich. So just to remind you too, in these grand jury proceedings, the judge isn't there and the target of your indictment is not in the room, or their lawyers are not in the room. The only people in the room are the federal prosecutors and the grand jury. So the federal prosecutors make the presentation without opposition. That's why people say you can indict a ham sandwich, because no one's like objecting. You're just giving them all the evidence you have. And if you're bringing it to them, it's usually gone through a rigorous review that there's probable cause. And the grand jury doesn't have to find proof beyond a reasonable doubt. All they have to find is probable cause, which is a much lower standard, right? So that's why they say you can indict a ham sandwich. So last week it got rejected. This week they said, all right, let's go to another area. Let's go to Alexandria, Virginia, and try it in front of another group. It got rejected again. So it's the third time it gets rejected if you count the first dismissal. Dismissed, then rejected again. After the case got dismissed the first time, first off, this case would never be brought the first time, right?
I can't believe like you're allowed to do this, like shop grand juries. Like
this doesn't happen. Well, you wouldn't, because you will lose your bar license. Like the lawyers behind this, and like no one does this. No one would bring the first prosecution. Remember,
it's like, you know how Donald Trump was a vexatious litigant, and how judges, like the Department of Justice now is a vexatious litigant in many ways, continuously filing these cases. And to me, even if at some point, and I don't see how they're going to do this, but even if at some point they were going to secure an indictment of Letitia James, I think the pattern that they've shown clearly fits into a pattern of malicious prosecution and vindictive prosecution. Like, how could anybody deny that? The more they try to pursue this, the more guilty they look in the way that they're going about this. And like we said, they look guilty from the start of this. It was obviously BS from the start of this, but it just gets worse every time something like this happens.
The main prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia, who was Trump's own appointee, Trump appointed a guy named Eric Siebert, right? It wasn't the Dems, Trump and his DOJ said, this is the guy. He became the interim. He was going to get approved by the Senate and he was going to get confirmed. But Trump said, you got to do this for me first. You got to go after Letitia James and Comey. He goes, well, we looked into it. There's no crimes there. Well, you got to leave. So they fired him and they pushed him out. He resigned, but they pushed him out. Then they brought in Lindsay Halligan. But the law says you can't bring in Lindsay Halligan. You only get one interim, and your one interim was Siebert. So if you want to use Halligan, you have to get her confirmed by the Senate. You can't call her an interim the way Siebert was, and he was extended by the judges, his term. So he was the person. You get one shot at it under the law. So that would dead any case right there. No one would bring it after he. Just think about it like this. If this case proceeded to a trial, right, and your New York Attorney General Letitia James and your lawyer, and the standard for finding her guilty is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, right? There's a memo in this case from the prior top federal prosecutor saying that there's no case and no crimes were committed. So what would you do? You would call a witness, right, and say, maybe an FBI agent, did you review the file? Yep. In the file, was there a letter from the former top prosecutor? Yep. This is the person who leads your office, right? Yep. The top dog, right? Yep. Can you read what it says? Sure. It says that there is no crime that has been committed at all, and we shouldn't pursue this prosecution. So let me get this straight. Your own former boss said that there not only was no proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but there's no proof? Yep. Okay. That's what will happen if the case gets to trial. That's why this case will get dismissed immediately, even if it went to a trial, okay? And so, Brett, to your point, that's why this case would never be brought. After it got dismissed the first time, you would have fired Lindsay Halligan. You would have got rid of everybody involved in normal times. Then they did it another time. They tried to re-indict. That got rejected. You certainly wouldn't bring it another time. But yes, Donald Trump has turned the DOJ into his loser law firms that would get sanctioned. No federal judge respects this. It just looks ridiculous. So that's what's going on there. And then this is why, with the DOJ now running and always running the Epstein file released based on the law that was passed, that's why the Democratic lawmakers said, we don't trust you. You think we trust you to produce these files when they're due in a few days? Oh, no way. So the Democrats and the survivors are saying, we want an audit, damn it. We want an audit of what you did to these files, because we know that you've spent thousands of hours redacting and probably destroying. So let us know what happened here. We'll keep you posted there. I'll do a video in the morning about that. So we covered a lot of topics. There. I wanted to make sure that all of the Meidas Mighty are fully informed about everything heading into this weekend. I feel hope and optimism, though, heading into this weekend. I really do. With all of this darkness, I feel hope. I feel empowered. I feel ready to go to the next year. I feel momentum. That's what we saw in Miami and in Georgia yet again. And, of course, the blue tsunami earlier last November. So with that, I wish you well, Meidas Mighty. Subscribe. Double check that you're subscribed. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. Thank you. Subscribe on audio as well. So go search MeidasTouch on audio. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Brett, Jordy.
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty.
Standing strong against the fascists, we sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.